everyone, hope you are good and be happy always. Once again, welcome to Shachi's Academy, and today we will discuss chapter 3 of Indian Economic Development, that is for class 12 CBSE, NCERT, and this is our topic, Indian economy from 1950 to 1990, and thereafter in 1991 we embarked on our new economic policy. So let's start with the highlights of this topic, that is growth model of India. This chapter will discuss the growth model of India, that is mixed economy with 5-year plans from 1950 to 1990. See, before starting this topic, chapter 3, you need to first see the video of chapter 2. Then only you will understand this topic very nicely, okay? Then it discusses the condition and planning for agriculture, industry and trade. Basically, these three sectors were taken up by the government of India for development. New economic policy was introduced in 1991, and before that, the mixed economic model for with help of economic planning was pursued. Recap: stagnant and backward economy due to exploited zamindari system. We have covered these topics in your chapter 1, so I won't be going in detail. Then there was low output and low productivity, low level of investment, small and scattered land holdings, primitive techniques of farming, subsistence farming. So to understand all these topics in detail, you can refer to chapter number 1. So I won't be discussing once again over here. Then we have forced commercialization, because Britishers forced Indians to produce indigo in their fields to produce cash crops so that they could sell them in the market and fetch more profits. So there was Neel Satyagraha and Neel Vidroh in Bengal was there to oppose cultivation of Neel or indigo in their fields, because people were not able to produce rice in those fields after cultivation of indigo. That was really pathetic for Indian tenants and farmers. White Gulf in tillers and owners was existing, because tillers or tenants or farmers were not the real owners, zamindars were the real owners. So condition of farmers were really pathetic. Reforms for development. Now, to deal with this situation, Indian planners introduced land or institutional reforms and technical reforms. Okay, so land and institutional reforms were just focused on your consolidation of land holdings and ceilings on land holdings, etc. And technical reforms were for modernization of your agriculture, industry, etc. Land reforms. Number 1 is your land reform. Abolition of intermediaries, zamindaris and ownership of rights of tillers or actual cultivators. So, zamindari system was abolished and your ownership rights were given to tillers or cultivators of the land. They were given the rights over land. They could do investment on their land. They could build fences. They could do permanent investment on their land for the permanent improvement of the land. 200 lakh tenants got ownership rights and came in direct contact of government and paid revenue. So after endowment of those rights on these tillers, they became real owners, and 200 lakh tenants got ownership rights and they came in direct contact with the government and they started paying revenue to Indian government and not to the zamindars, and Britishers left India in 1947, you know that. Okay, then incentives to cultivators for improvement on land was given. So cultivators or farmers who improved their land, who did investment on their land, improved the quality of production and land, they were incentivized by the government. They were given special rewards and incentives. Land reforms, ceiling on land holdings. So we did our zamindari, abolition of intermediaries, that is also land reform, because zamindars were abolished, and thereafter ceiling on land holding. What is ceiling? Putting a limit. That's like roof. Your ceiling. You are just putting a limit to the ownership rights of land also. So what it meant? It means fixation of maximum size of cultivable land that an individual or family can own. So what is the maximum amount of land or the measure of land which a single name could hold on its name? That is your land ceiling. So previously zamindars were having thousands and thousands acres of land on their names, individual names, and on their children's names. But after abolition of zamindari, they could not hold land, immense amount of land or unlimited amount of land on their names, and they had to just give away or part away with that land to the government, and they were not the owners of that land. Land ceiling was imposed on holding size of land to reduce concentration of land in fewer hands. Fewer hands. Which were these fewer hands? Zamindars were these fewer hands. Before independence, Britishers gave all the rights of land to zamindars. You can see in detailed explanation of chapter 1 that they were having all the ownership rights of land. They gave those land to tenants for cultivation and charged exorbitant rates of taxation, took away maximum of their produce as taxation and paid some amount of revenue to Britishers. So Britishers were getting revenue from zamindars and tillers were not given any rights on land, so they were not able to do any improvements on land. So condition of land, the fertility of land was depleting. It was going down and down by each day. Zamindars were gaining wealth and Britishers were gaining a fixed amount of revenue from these zamindars. So who were the sufferers? Only the farmers were sufferers. So here this concentration of land in fewer hands in the hands of zamindars were stopped or removed when India gained independence. It removed zamindari system, it abolished it and gave away land to actual tillers or the farmers of the land. Surplus land was distributed to landless laborers. So, land which was taken away by zamindars by the law of land ceiling was given to actual tillers. Land reforms, and again in land reforms we have consolidation of land holdings, allotting fragmented and scattered land of farmers at one place to save cost of cultivation. So what happened to farmers? They were given different pieces of land. So one piece of land was in some other area, one was in the, another area. So what happened to farmers? They were not able to cultivate good crops on those land. They were not able to cultivate a whole piece of big piece of land. They were having scattered land everywhere. One piece, take for instance, one piece of your land is in South Delhi, another is in your North Delhi, another one is in your Central Delhi. So what will happen? You will run to all these three places and try to cultivate your land and you will end up cultivating nothing at all. So that exactly happened to the farmers and they also were facing so many problems in cultivation of land. And if all those your Delhi lands are combined together, you can cultivate them nicely and earn better living and produce more crops on that land or do whatever you want, but in a better manner. If that land is consolidated, that means put together, okay, combined. So those lands were combined together and they were given one farm. Farmers were given one farm instead of 2, 3 or 4 farms of small sizes, okay. The regulation of rent. Rents were regulated to end illegal extortion from cultivators, right? So before the end of zamindari system, abolition of zamindari system, these cultivators were forced to pay exorbitant rates, very high rates of interest, rent on land, and they were not the actual owners. Now, land was transferred on the names of farmers and they became the owners. So now, regulation of rent was done and they were even actual cultivators of land also. So this was a dual benefit. If any person did not have land on his name, he could rent land from some other people, but rent was regulated and it was not very high this time after independence in India. Cooperative farming was encouraged. What is that? It is a form of collective farming to increase bargaining power of cultivators. For example, if you have a group of 20 farmers and you 20 farmers have small pieces of land. But if you combine all those small farms, 20 farmers, if combine those farms together, it will become a very big farm. And now you can cultivate tomatoes on that land and those tomatoes you can sell to Maggi ketchup industry, okay, or some Kisan ketchup industry firm. So what will happen? You will have better bargaining power, you can have better access to plant and machinery, you can have better labor, skilled engineers can come, skilled scientists can come, they can determine the quality of your land, you can have better access to capital and other resources. So it increases farming capacity, it increases efficiency of farming, it increases production and bargaining power of farmers. So collective farming or cooperative farming, you can say, is a very good method of farming. Now, failure of partial implementation of land reforms. But these land reforms could not produce that kind of result which were anticipated, which were expected of them. Why? Because they could be implemented fully only in West Bengal and Kerala. These reforms could only be implemented in Kerala and West Bengal, and in other states zamindars took advantage of some loopholes in legal system and they did not surrender their whole land to government. Zamindars showed themselves as cultivators and evicted tenants. Now, zamindars, what was the rule? That if you are not cultivating your land, that land would be taken away from you. But zamindars showed themselves through fraudulent practices or from illegal papers, they showed them as cultivators and they evicted, threw away those tenants from those lands, took back the rights of land which were given to the tenants by the government. Then, zamindars also challenged land sealing legislation in courts and evaded Sealing Act. So, Sealing Act, which was passed by Government of India, was also evaded. They challenged those acts in judiciary, and as you know, in India, judiciary is most powerful. They just filed court cases and they just evaded Sealing Act. Then they registered their surplus land in the name of close relatives. For example, if I have 2000 acres of land, okay, and now government is giving me only 20 acres of land and taking away my 2000 acres of land, so that will be really painful to me, and what I will do, I will register those that surplus land, okay, in the name of my bua, chacha, nani, tai, etc. all the uncles and aunties, all the paternal uncles and aunties, and so that I can secretly take ownership of those lands without knowledge of government. So that was done by zamindars, and surplus land was transferred on the name of close relatives, in the name of close relatives. Technical reforms. Now, what are they? These reforms stand for adoption of high yielding variety of seeds, technology, mechanization and green revolution. So all these mechanization, modernization of agriculture was done under technical reform. That meant for the modernization and mechanization of your agriculture, and that gave rise to your green revolution. Why? Because high yielding variety of seeds were adopted but taken for cultivation by Indian farmers, were given to Indian farmers, and they did mechanization of their land. They purchased tractors, threshers, crushers, modern machines for cultivation, and that increased your crop production, and green revolution happened in India. They solved the problem of low productivity with high yielding variety seeds, chemical fertilizers, pesticides and insecticides. This led to significant rise in output, and this was called green revolution. So you understood what is green revolution? Then green revolution and HYV. Green revolution, crop spot, that is significant increase. It increased manifold due to high yielding variety of seeds. It was launched in 1967-68, and in that year itself the crop production increased by 25%. It was launched in 67-68, and in that very single year your crop production increased by 25%. India became self-sufficient and broke the vicious cycle of agricultural stagnation. So before that your agriculture was stagnant. As we mentioned in our previous chapter 2, that even America threatened India to end war with Pakistan, and if it did not do so, it will stop supply of food grains to India. So that was really bad of America, and they were threatening India to stop food grain supply. So we were not having enough food supplies for our people, and we had to import food grains from another country. So that was our condition. But with implementation or adoption of high yielding variety of seeds, we increased our food grain production through green revolution and ending up our agricultural stagnation. Elements of high yielding technology. What is that? Use of high yielding variety of seeds, HYV seeds, use of chemical fertilizers, use of insecticides and pesticides, expansion of irrigation facilities. What is irrigation? That is, you water your lands. You need proper sources of water to irrigate your lands, or water your fields or water your plants to grow them. Okay. So here these are the elements of high yielding technology. Done. Phases of green revolution. What are they? Number 1, phase 1, mid 1960s, mid to mid 1970s. During this time period, revolution was restricted to affluent farmers of Punjab, Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu, which produced rice and wheat. Why? because these affluent farmers had money to invest in modernization, to buy tractors, threshers, tube wells, pumps, etc., and invest good amount of money in these mechanization and modernization facilities. But small farmers could not do so because they did not have that amount of money, and government too was not in condition to subsidize those commodities or to provide economic assistance to these people. So small farmers were left out of this first phase of revolution, and only big farmers or affluent farmers who were rich could avail these facilities or technology. Phase 2, mid-1970s to mid-1980s, it extended to whole country, covering all crops, as small farmers were given loans at subsidized rate for buying inputs. So previously it was concentrated only in Punjab, Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu in affluent farmers who were rich. But now this revolution covered whole nation. Government too gave loans at subsidized rate to small farmers, and they could also purchase machines and go for modernization of their cultivation in their farms. Gains of Green Revolution. It benefited large farmers as they had money to invest on mechanization and other technology. It benefited large farmers because they had all the money and they could invest in modernization. It left out small farmers as they did not have money to adopt technology. See, when government provides subsidies, only very small fraction of people can avail them and others are left out. It happened so in case of Green Revolution also. Why? Because everyone does not know that government is providing subsidies, and some people may think that if I take up loan, I'll have to repay it. What if I cannot pay it? It happens today also. Government is providing so many loans, so many initiatives, it's providing so many subsidies to people, but people are unknown about them, they do not know, they do not have proper knowledge, they do not have proper channels to avail those loans, etc. And it happened similarly, it happened in that time also, and people could not avail those loans and could not invest in modernization of their land. On overall basis, it failed to achieve equity. So, while large farmers could avail the benefits of Green Revolution, small farmers were left out of this revolution. Agricultural subsidies, virtue or vice. See, when we give agricultural subsidies to farmers, whether it is good for people or not, we can see that. Vice, that means the bad things about subsidies. What are the disadvantages of giving subsidies to people? Huge burden on government finances. When government gives subsidies, it's a huge burden. It's, you can say, a dead weight on government finances, because it takes away a significant portion of your government revenue, which can be used, which could have been used for the development of infrastructure, for health, hygiene or other industrialization processes, etc. of government or nation. But it has been used as subsidy. So it's a dead weight or burden on economy and your nation. Misappropriate benefits. See, when agricultural subsidies are provided, they are provided to everyone. Even very large farmers, very affluent farmers, rich farmers get benefits of subsidies. In India, right now also, agricultural income is tax-free. And they are given subsidies also. That means this is misappropriate benefits that are accruing to rich farmers with your small farmers. Wasteful consumption. When subsidies are provided, people tend to waste them, they are not using them properly, and they tend to think that government is giving it free of cost, we can use it the manner we like it to use. Okay, that is wasteful consumption also. It could have been used for some other purposes. Then virtues. Gives aid to small and marginal farmers. While there are many disadvantages of these subsidies, it is really helpful for small and marginal farmers who cannot afford to buy their seeds to sow in their fields, to water their land, or to put pesticides, fertilizers or insecticides in their fields. So it's very good for small and marginal farmers who do not have enough finances to produce in their fields. Helps small farmers to get benefits of new technology like machines, fertilizers and pesticides. So to reap, and you can remove this get, okay? So reap or get is same thing, okay? So they can invest in fertilizers, machines and pesticides, etc. and in modern technology. So they can benefit from that. Increases equity. See, small farmers do not have enough amount of finance, and When subsidies are given to them, it promotes equity. They are brought at par with other farmers who have enough resources. Importance of industries. Now, we will discuss the industrial sector. Industries are based to sustainable or sustained GDP growth. Why? Because see, agriculture is one thing, you are producing food grains, etc. But you need heavy machines, you need bigger industries to produce all the commodities that we buy and sell in markets and earn profit for international trade. Everything, we need good amount of industries, and we need huge industrial base for the development of nation. They provide employment and lead to better infrastructure. It is only with the help of industries infrastructure can be built. So they are very good for your nation building. Role of public and private sectors in Indian industrial development, or need for direct participation of public sector in industrial development. So what is the role of public sector, and what was in fact the need of public sector to intervene in all the industrial processes of India? We will discuss that. Lack of capital with private sector. Firstly, there were very few private sector ventures. Only Tatas and Birlas had money, and that money was not enough to develop whole of India. It could not have been taken the pitiable condition of whole India, and that's why government had to intervene with public sector enterprises. Then, low investment to invest. Even though private sector might have money, but there was low inducement to invest because the level of demand was very low in India. People were not rich, people were fighting for their 2 square meals, and they had a very low level of income, which showed less profit prospects. And when profit prospects are low, private sector's individuals do not want to invest in those ventures. That's why private sector was not there for investment, and government had to invest in these ventures. Growth with social justice. See, growth with social justice and welfare can only be done by public sector and not by private sector. Then IPR. That is IPR 1956 is Industrial Policy Resolution, or Declaration on Leading Role of State. That means IPR 1956 provided for leading role of public sector enterprises in the development of your economy. That means public sector was was designated to have the major control of your resources, of distribution and allocation of your resources and production activities in your economy of India. Principal elements of IPR 1956 is 3-4 classification of industries we had. Solely for public sector, that means all the production activities were divided into 3 sectors. Number 1 is the type of industries which were solely reserved, which were given away solely. That means only public sector could produce for those industries. That was atomic energy was to be controlled only by public sector. No private sector could produce atomic energy commodities or things. Then defense and railways, they were to be controlled solely by public sector, and they were not to be given by to private sector. For both public and private sector. Now, there is second category which is open to be used or produced by both public and private sector. Just like fertilizers could be produced by both public and private sector. Industry, then mining industry was also controlled by both private and public sector. Then solely private, only for private sector. Government was not eager, you can say, or it was not the sector in which government was needed to invest. Left out industries were given to private sector, such as food, roadways, transportation, FMCG, etc. FMCG, fast moving consumer goods like toiletries, soap, toothbrushes, toothpaste, cameras, dolls, toys, garments, etc. These are. Now, what are the principal elements of IPR 1956? It endeavored to establish industries in rural areas for regional equality. Why? Because industries are normally concentrated or established in cities and towns, and regional areas do not have, or very small villages or very remote areas do not have enough amount of industries. So what government endeavored, it tried to establish industries in rural areas or far-flung areas of India, remote areas. Then motivate private entrepreneurs to establish businesses in remote areas. Licenses were really given quickly to people who wanted to establish businesses in remote areas of India. Why? Because government wanted decentralization of industries. Take for example, all the industries are established in Delhi or North India. What will happen? All the other regions of India will be lesser developed, will not have any type of industry, and people will not have good venues of employment over there, and only Delhi will develop, other areas will not develop. They will lie in stagnation, they will be lesser developed areas or underdeveloped areas. So to remove this inhibition, remove this condition, government tried to establish industries in all different parts of India, in all the regions, in all the remote areas of India, so that people of all the regions can develop and India as a whole can develop. Then industrial licensing. Licenses were liberally issued for rural areas. Those who wanted to establish industries in rural areas, they were quickly given licenses so that government could help those people to establish industries and just gain development of those areas, attain development of those remote areas. Then industrial concessions for regional equality. This too was given. Industrial concessions were also given to people who wanted to establish industries in rural areas so that those areas could develop. Then tax holidays, freedom from payment of taxes in initial time period. Take for example, if you establish any industry in economic zones, SEZs, special economic zones, in those areas relaxation is given on taxes, relaxation is given on electricity bills, and other concessions are also given. Same happened here also. Tax holidays were given to people who wanted to establish industries in remote areas of India to develop regional equality of India. Subsidized power supply for emerging or infant industries. Those industries which are infant, that means in initial phases. For example, if I establish some industry, I have lesser amount of finance, I have lesser amount of inputs, no modernization is there, I have lesser amount of capital resources, I don't have that much amount of skilled labor. That means I am a small industry, I need protection, I am infant. My industry is what? It is infant, it is small, it is in initial phase. So all the industries which are in emerging and initial phases are known as infant industries. They are not fully grown up. They are not powerful enough to compete with other industries. That's why they are infant. So subsidized power supply. That means they were given power supply at lesser rates. That is subsidized power supply for infant industries. So that is all about our part 1. We will discuss all the other details of this chapter in part 2 of this chapter, and let's be in touch. Whatever problems you have, you can post in comments, and I'll be posting more videos in English language. We have videos in Hindi language for this CBSE book. So study hard, keep working, and God bless you.